If you're short on space but want to grow great tasting tomatoes, consider growing dwarf tomatoes. These are going to be full-size fruits growing on compact plants, perfect for containers. The fruit are going to be available in a wide assortment of sizes, flavors, and colors. Best of all, they're going to be easy to maintain, easy to grow. They're also very productive, and you'll be amazed at how much you'll be able to grow in a very small amount of space. For those of you who are new to this channel, my name is Linda, and I'd like to welcome you to Veggy 360. In today's video, I'd like to introduce you to dwarf tomatoes. Now, most of you are familiar with the two main categories of tomatoes, the indeterminate and the determinate. Indeterminate tomatoes, as the name implies, will grow until they're killed off by freezing temperatures. They're going to produce fruit throughout the entire growing season, giving you a steady harvest of tomatoes. They will grow quite tall, as you can see in the picture here. This is actually Prudence Purple that I grew one year. I let it grow just to see how tall it would get, and it got to the second story window and I had to use a ladder to harvest them. Now you can manage the growth by staking or trellising, and you will also want to sucker them, which means removing the shoot that grows in the juncture between the stem and the leaf. Determinate tomatoes, on the other hand, are going to be more compact than the indeterminates. They will grow to a set height, then they're going to produce their fruit in a relatively short time frame, which is great if you're going to be canning or freezing. You can manage the growth with cages and or stakes, and you don't want to sucker determinates because they only grow for a short time. You will actually cut down on yield if you sucker these determinates. The third category is the dwarf tomato. They're more compact like the determinates, but they're going to continue to grow throughout their whole growing season, much like the indeterminates, but at a much more gradual pace. They'll produce fruit throughout the whole season, so really you're going to get the best of both worlds. Compact growth habit, yet steady production of fruit throughout the whole growing season. You can manage the growth with cages and or stakes, much like you do the determinates. And you also don't want to sucker these as well because it will cut down on your yields. Dwarf tomatoes look distinctly different from determinates and indeterminates in that they have a thicker central stem and rugose or crinkly leaves. They do come in regular leaf type and the potato leaf type like you see on the right side. Initially, there was just a limited number of dwarf tomato varieties available, but thanks to Craig LaHoulier, who lives in North Carolina, and Patrina Newski-Small, they partnered together to form the Dwarf Tomato Project. It's now grown to a worldwide effort of volunteers who are hobby gardeners, and they've now created almost 140 varieties of dwarf tomatoes that you can buy. The varieties that they have created range from 2 feet to 4.5 feet tall, which is 60 to 140 centimeters in height, depending on the variety that you plant. The fruit sizes are available from cherries to the large slicers, about 18 ounces, which would be 510 grams. Now, there's also a wide assortment of colors available to choose from, all the way from the red, pink, yellow, orange, blacks, which would be your purple and browns, green, and even white or ivory. They can be found in solid colors as well as some really cool variegated color combinations. So this is a very exciting category of tomatoes that have been created. The flavor is going to vary from a milder flavor strength all the way to a higher intensity flavor that can be quite complex. The sweet-sour balance can also vary to either more sweet or more tangy, or a nice balance between. So you have the opportunity to select the flavor profile that you prefer. Very, very cool. Now I have included a link in the description below for the Dwarf Tomato Project. I encourage you to go read up on it. It's a very cool grassroots effort to grow the world of dwarf tomatoes. Now this year I am trying out 8 different varieties. I'd like to show you the varieties that I'm trying, talk a little bit about each of them, and then show you how to plant a dwarf tomato. So here are the 8 varieties that I'm trying this year. The first 4 I ordered from Victory Seeds. I've included a link to their website in the description below for your convenience. The next 4 I got directly from Craig LaHoulier. I had reached out to him and explained that I'm in charge of the Cancer Center garden, Pearson Cancer Center. And when I select the varieties to plant in that garden, I look for varieties that are higher in antioxidants and cancer-fighting compounds. So he sent me these 4 varieties that he has developed. They're not quite ready for release. They're still in the trial period, so I'm very fortunate that he gave me a sneak peek at these soon-to-be released varieties. He developed Mocha's Cherry and Mocha's Plum to be higher in anthocyanin, which is a plant pigment that gives the red, blue, or purple color. Oriole and Tanager he developed to be higher in lycopene, which is also a plant pigment. This pigment gives a red or orange color. So let me show you these 8 varieties. When I talk about them, this is the first time that I'm growing them, so I'm really not sure what the fruit tastes like or looks like. So I'm relying on the website for Victory Seeds as well as Craig's descriptions. So when I talk about these varieties, I'll be talking about it in future tense. The first 3 tomatoes that I'd like to show you, I planted in this green stock vertical planter about 3 weeks ago. I have included the video in which I planted these in the planter in the description below. This is a sweet scarlet dwarf. It has a potato leaf very much like the brandywine does. The fruit will ripen in 75 to 90 days, and they'll be medium to medium large, weighing about 6 to 16 ounces. The fruit will be scarlet red, and the flavor will be intense and complex. Should be very, very tasty. This next tomato is Dwarf Oriole. Craig developed this particular one to be higher in lycopene, so it will have a beautiful orange color. The fruit will ripen to medium size or larger, and the flavor should be delicious. I'm really looking forward to this one. This is Dwarf Mocha's Cherry. Craig developed this particular one to be higher in anthocyanin. As you'll see, the leaves and stem actually are darker than the other tomatoes. It's really quite lovely. The fruit will be a large cherry size and will be purple in color. And when the sun hits it, they should be almost black. It should be a very productive tomato with a good flavor, which I'm looking forward to because look, it's starting to bloom already. I'm excited. This is Dwarf Mocha's Plum. Like its sibling, Dwarf Mocha's Cherry, Craig developed this one to be higher in anthocyanin as well. So the leaves and the stem are that beautiful darker color. The fruit should be purple like the Mocha's Cherry, but the size is going to be more like a small Roma. It too will be very productive with a very good flavor. This is Dwarf Tanager. Craig developed this one, like the Oriole, to be higher in lycopene. You'll see this one has a potato leaf, and it too will produce a lovely, delicious orange fruit that will be medium size or larger. This is Maralinga. It should produce heavy yields of medium large fruit that are about 6 to 10 ounces in size. They should ripen about 75 days to a rich brown color with a meaty purple-red interior. Sounds intriguing. The flavor should be rich and intense. I'm looking forward to this one in particular. This is Adelaide Festival. I've actually planted this particular variety in a pot in which I was growing some early season lettuce, so the container for now is doing double duty. The tomato will ripen in 80 days, producing medium-sized fruit that are about 6 to 10 ounces in size. The fruit will be very colorful, being rich purple with green vertical stripes that are going to ripen to an olive gold. It should look absolutely stunning in a salad. The fruit should be very juicy and tender with a well-balanced flavor that is neither too tart nor too sweet. This last variety is Rosella Crimson. It too was planted in a container with early season lettuce, so it's doing double duty as well. The fruit should ripen in 78 days. They will be medium to medium large fruit, 4 to 12 ounces in size. The fruits will ripen to a crimson pink color that should have a well-balanced sweet flavor. All right, let's go ahead and plant a dwarf tomato. The container needs to be at least a 5-gallon minimum container or 12 inches in diameter. It should have drainage holes for proper drainage. This particular container happens to be a self-watering container. I chose self-watering simply because it's easier to maintain a more consistent soil moisture level, which is going to be important for minimizing blossom end rot later on in the season. You want to fill it with a high quality potting mix, and since tomatoes are heavy feeders, you want to use a slow release fertilizer in order to grow more tomatoes. Now this tomato is Dwarf Oriole. This is one that Craig LeHoulier developed. You'll see the nice root development. I actually left this in the pot a little bit longer than I like to. I also prune off the lower leaves, which I've done so already, and bury the stem 1 to 2 inches deep in order to get more nourishment for the plants, because any of the buried stem will actually grow more roots. So the plant will be able to take up more nourishment and you'll grow more tomatoes. So I'm going to dig pretty deep, check the height. I want to go a little bit deeper. That's better. Just lightly pack it in. Oh, by the way, this potting mix is pre-moistened so that it will be easier to water it in, which I'm going to do now. Once you have it planted, water it in nicely so that it will get settled in, removing any air pockets that might be there. For caring for these dwarf tomatoes, it's like a dwarf tomato in that it doesn't need to be suckered. You just literally prune the lower leaves, or any leaves as the plant grows. Any leaves that touch the ground, you're going to want to prune off so that you don't get any of the soil-borne diseases. Now, if the plant gets too bushy, you can also prune off some of the inner leaves to improve air circulation, which will then reduce any chances for diseases. It won't eliminate it, it'll just reduce the chances. You'll also want to use either a short stake or a cage in order to give the plant some support. So literally, that's all there is to it for planting a dwarf tomato. It's still early in the season, so check back for some follow-up videos so that you can see how well these tomatoes are growing. And then at the end of the season, we're going to be doing a taste test. I am a foodie, and as a sensory and consumer research scientist, I've actually trained a lot of taste panels over my career. So being able to taste the different varieties is just like the best part. so excited. I can't wait. If you learned something from today's video, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any future videos, particularly these follow-up videos on the dwarf tomatoes. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye now.